I'm a professor at WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and I'm from Venice, and I've been bringing students from WPI to Venice for almost about 35 years. And so, for many, many years, I did a lot of research on the city. And at some point, we decided that time was running short and we had to convert all of our projects into, or at least some of them, into products that we could, create startups around and then uh, produce employment in the city, which is really lacking right now. I mean, as you know, Venice is mostly an economy based on tourism, and people have been leaving at a rate of about 1,000 as residents per year, and we lost 125,000 residents since World War II. So we're a dwindling kind of a city, and so having done this for decades, in about 4 years ago, we decided to create this benefit corporation called Serendipity, which stands for Serenissima Development and Preservation through Technology, and whose mission is to help repopulate the city and by inspiring, supporting, and promoting the creation of businesses that can create jobs in the historic city of Venice. And one of the programs, as you mentioned, that the main program that we have for that is Design X Venice, which is an MIT program that we imported into the city. And ARTI was one of the selected teams. So, there was a pretty rigorous selection, and then an even more rigorous program followed that took 3 months with faculty from MIT come in to help the startups, shape their ideas and create viable startups that can really make it in the real world. And so I'm happy to talk to Andrea tonight to discuss his startup in the field of conservation.
Yeah. In fact, Fabio, we have three questions for you, and the first one is more about the definition of cultural heritage. So sometimes we talk about cultural heritage, but we are not probably try to discuss and try to understand a bit more what is how we can open the definition of cultural heritage, and how can we understand the value of cultural heritage into a local economy, as for example, the territory of Venice.
Well, there's a lot of questions in that question, so I'll take it one piece at a time. So cultural heritage, I mean, there's definitions out there. I mean, UNESCO, as you know, has promoted the preservation of cultural heritage, both, and the main division is between material and immaterial. So like, works of art and architecture and so forth on one side, and the other side more like traditions or skills or artisanship and things like that that are also cultural heritage, but they're immaterial.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's hard to tell how much, cultural heritage contributes to the economy. Certainly, I don't think people would come to Italy or to Venice if it wasn't for the cultural heritage. Maybe the food. I guess you could add the food. That's a cultural heritage as well
Absolutely.
that we have in Italy. So, I think I think everybody appreciates it, whether you know what the definition is or not. But and it's certainly the kind of thing that people, tourists, including ourselves, really, when we are tourists, we seek these kinds of things in other places that we go to, and of course they're gonna come to Venice to seek the same kind of thing. I mean, it's it's everywhere, and it's decoration for everyday life, basically, in Italy. So
Yeah. In fact, I think that we need also to consider more about the status of the cultural heritage in Italy, in Venice or another city. I'm calling now from Verona. I'm based in Verona, so I see some kind of similarity with Venice as well. So, what do you think is the status today of cultural heritage? So, are we really expressing cultural heritage in a proper manner? And what could be the way to improve improve the communication across cultural heritage into the kind of future uh, vision of looking forward to the, especially in terms of the development of our economy as well.
Yeah, so as I said, I mean, I think cultural heritage does affect the economy already. It's just hard to pinpoint exactly how, but certainly, like I said, people come to see it and also to appreciate our crafts and our food and things that are not necessarily artistic or architectural achievements. No, I think that no, to be fair, I think Italy, given the amount of heritage that we have, you know, the people always say, you know, we have like whatever 70% of all the world heritage. I think is a made up number. I don't know where that comes from, but we do have a lot, and I think overall, I have to say, I mean, it's a lot to try to protect, and so Italy has, you know, instituted, you know, the Superintendenza and all these, you know, organizations to protect and restore, with laboratories to study, you know, the materials and the ways to do restoration. In fact, I think probably Italians are considered some of the best trained, you know, in the world of conservation around the world, because we have so much of it and we're experts at a lot of it. But you know, on the other hand, there's a limit, obviously, to how much a country in general can spend to, you know, to protect and conserve heritage. And so, yeah, you know, it'd be nice to have more money. There's also always the question of whether, you know, should we actually conserve and preserve everything? Because I mean, at this, you know, it's a philosophical question, but it's something that you know, that happens. You know, there are decisions made that prioritize certain things over others, and it's unclear that there should be a, you know, a widespread conservation of everything, because if we did that, then we'd be still living in temples, you know, like the Romans, that if we preserved everything the way it was, right? So some change happens and some things fall through the cracks and get lost, you know, or buried. You know, we have a lot of archaeology in Italy, and you know, it's all there. We could probably take it out if we wanted to, but do we want to? I mean, there's some, you know, kind of, you know, intersection there between, you know, normal everyday life and heritage, which makes decisions like that almost inevitable. And so, you know, it's not an infinite kind of amount of money that we have, and therefore decisions are made, whether consciously or not, to, you know, to pick some things and keep them, and let some other ones go. And sometimes there's the will to preserve, but not the money. And I think that's where ARTI comes in, because you know, it'd be nice to have more direct connection between people and heritage, so that they, you know, they could individually contribute to conservation, and you know, and be proud of whatever they helped conserve, because otherwise it's, you know, for Italy, for us, people like us who pay taxes, we are paying for heritage preservation every day, and you know, we don't have direct say on what gets preserved. Maybe, you know, something like ARTI can help people direct their money where they most want it to be. You know, so I think it'd be something that people like I would like to do. I mean, Probably in my neighborhood, probably not very far from me, because I always figured out the bigger things are taken care of, like somebody will fix the pietà or something else, but I don't have to worry about that, but maybe I could worry about the little statue or a coat of arms or emblem that's down the street from me that I see every day, and nobody pays attention to it. It's not a top priority for the
Yeah.
authorities, so perhaps that's more where a more direct connection can be made.
Yeah. No, in fact, I think that we are a bit touching the point of innovation, how the innovation could support cultural heritage. In fact, for example, this aspect of digitalization, and but for example, ARTI, when we founded, we try also to develop a strong relation with academia and university, because there is some kind of element of cross innovation that we need to take in consideration, because potentially there are also some kind of issue that we need to monitor in, and adjust properly. And that's why I move to the last question. Is more about, because you are professor at university, so you are very close to academia and more research. So how do you see the combination between research coming from the academia, so the value generated in the academia and university, and the connection with the potential resolution of problems across cultural regions? How can we integrate academia, so with private or public administrations that are responsible to work on, to support
Well,
and
I think it's happening, and it has been happening. I mean, it's not something that, you know, my experience with the superintendenza and people around is there was a lot of cross contamination with the universities. Like I said, I mean, there were laboratories set up to study materials with universities kind of helping with the instrumentation and whatnot. And, a lot of, you know, architecture and art historians who come out of the university and help the superintendents, decide what to do. That includes also archaeologists. There's a lot of practicing professionals in those fields that they are in daily contact with the superintendents, because that's what's needed. I mean, you need experts like that. So I think it's happening to a degree, and even in the digital world, it's been happening, because I was involved with this, in the late 80s, which is way back, at the early dawn of PCs. I was running a laboratory at the University of Venice for it's called a laboratory for Macs, and we just got the first PCs, IBM PCs, and we tried to use them immediately to, in fields like archaeology and so forth, even back then. So, I mean, it could always do more. I think the latest, I think technology now can really help bring costs down, and maybe in some cases. Like, for example, I think you were asking, how much, if we have to take any piece of art and have to calculate how much it would cost to restore, ideally you would like to do that without involving humans, because there's so much of that it would cost an infinite amount of money just to get the assessments, to then decide what's needed, to then decide how much it's going to cost. I mean, if a piece of art is this big and it probably costs like, 50 euros to restore, you don't want to go through all that. So maybe something like AI could be used. You could feed it a lot of examples, and then it could just kind of auto-generate ballpark figures, because I mean, we're not talking big bucks for the small pieces of art. And and that would be where technology can make a difference, because it could cut down all that cost and just kind of get a good enough estimate that then you can use your technology to kind of split up into pieces, and then use your blockchain to track the donations and all that. But part of the key is to automate the bureaucracy, really, because all of this is possible. You could restore a piece of art, starting tomorrow, if you had the money, you had an architect do the proposal, blah blah blah, and then you put it through the superintendenza. In a fairly reasonable amount of time, you could get it restored. But still, but if you have tens of thousands of these things to do, you don't even a minute, like you could probably dedicate. We calculated that in Venice, even if we had all the money, and we started restoring pieces, and we did, say, an inauguration of a restoration. We figured we could do maybe one a week, because it takes time to set up, we do all even the communication, all that. Maybe we could do, if we're good, we could do 2 a week. So maybe we could do 100 in a year, So that's a bottleneck. Because if you have the money, which obviously is part of what you like to do, then you want to do it as quickly as possible. You don't want to have to wait, to actually see the results of your donation, right? I mean, you want to kind of fairly quickly, within a few months, or at the most 1 year or something, get that done. But but if you have thousands in the pipeline, then you better have an automated thing. And I think that's, a lot of it is bureaucracy. So part of it is, agreeing with the superintendents on a certain protocol that you follow, and then, they do a quick, review, and they just approve, whatever. Because otherwise, if you go through the normal process, it's not even that they're very slow, but they're not fast. But and that's okay if you're restoring like a big thing, but if you have to restore a million little things, you don't want every minute counts. So I think that's an area for sure where technology could help a lot. Because I think the money, we're not talking big money either, we're talking like, for Venice, I forget the estimate we had. That's one point, but it was like a few million, like 10, maybe 15 million euros for all the public art in Venice. So, not gigantic amount. You could find one person that could give you that money, even possibly, right? But then you have to go through all the process again, and every one of those things approved to restore, and then we would be dead, like way before we see any results, right? So I think if that's the area that you want to cover, which again, I said, to me, public art, or accessible art, minor art in general, it's closer to home to a lot of people, than the big famous paintings. But people could be attached to certain things for different reasons also. It doesn't have to do with proximity necessarily. It could be mental proximity, like, I am German, I live in Venice, and I would like to help restore the things that have to do with German people. Okay. That kind of thing. So it's not like necessary, but it's still a connection, right? And there's a lot of reasons why people might want to do that, and maybe Deutsche Bank will give you the money for that, you know what I mean? So I think it's a combination of getting maybe some big sponsors that can help get the ball rolling, and get enough of a crew on the ground to get something going, and then try to automate everything, really, as much as you can, or at least small.
When you are saying that, it seems like exactly related to the first question. What is the definition of cultural heritage? And you are saying exactly, probably kind of you open the view of the definition, and you are saying that even if we are in Italy, maybe there are some people from other country that are part of our cultural heritage, due to other kind of elements that are embedded on the cultural heritage itself. So then to engage people to restore, support the restoration of cultural heritage could be also the culture itself. So, and why? I'm German, I'm living in Italy, I see this monument that is connected with my history, my culture. So I feel myself really engaged and motivated to support the contribute for the restoration of the monument. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and you don't even have to be living in Italy. You could be just a German visit in Italy enough that, you know, because as you know, Germans like to come to the beaches in Italy a lot. So they are here all the frequently. Maybe over time, you know, that becomes kind of like, you know, it's another piece of their life that you can leverage, I think. I think it would be, and likewise Venetians. I mean, I know people personally that have gone all over the Mediterranean to look for the Lion of St. Mark, you know, and if there was a Lion of St. Mark on the island somewhere, you know, in Greece that needed help, we would probably put money before the Greeks would, I think, for example, right? I mean, because it's more, we're more attached to it really than they would be almost, you know. It's an attachment type thing. An attachment could be a lot of things, but
yeah.
you know, it's a combination of all these factors, you know.
Thank you, Fabio. So I'm so happy that you are the first person invited for this interview channels that Arti want to develop, because we want also to invite other people and talk in this kind of way to see and to stimulate more kind of thinking to how can we support, how can we see in a different way, in a different paradigm, the economy connected with our cultural heritage. So thank you very much, Fabio.
I'm glad to talk to you, Andrea, and you know that the main thing I would like to see is that your startup is successful,
Yeah,
so that you help preserve my cultural heritage, which is the Venetians. And
yeah.
so, you know, if you can create some jobs in my city, to me, that's preservation and conservation also as well. So, anything I can do to help you, Andrea, you know, we're always going to be there for you.
Thank you so much, Fabio. Thank you very much. Bye.